Guys, welcome back to the Punisher's YouTube channel. Today we've got a very exciting video. We are doing the Planet Eclipse Gtek 180R for the player review. This is something, guys, that we were doing for a while and we got away from, and I wanted to bring it back for you guys to give you the most comprehensive gun review possible. Hope that you guys enjoy this video. If you guys do, definitely subscribe. I know a lot of you guys aren't. We'll see you guys after the intro.
I'm so free.
Alright guys, so here we are. We've got the Planet Eclipse Gtek 180R. Gtek 180R has definitely taken the world by storm when it comes to the mid-level paintball guns. This is going to be right in the same price range as the Dye DSR Plus. Gtek 180R is definitely a great option at $1,099.95. We also have, occasionally we are going to have Ultimate Gtek 180Rs, which is going to include a full barrel kit and a special anno job. Those are going to retail from anywhere from $1,350 to $1,450 depending upon the anno. If you guys are interested in a custom Gtek 180R, make sure that you guys stay tuned to our social media channels because we are going to definitely be having those coming in more frequently. Alright, so I have my cheat sheet here just because it's been a while since we've done one of these, so I want to make sure I hit on everything. But first off, let's talk about the background of the Gtek 180R. So like I said, this was released in the summer of 2023. I have the two previous models. I don't have a regular Gtek, unfortunately. Right here, I've got the Gtek 160R, and as you can tell, there are major differences between the Gtek 180R as compared to the Gtek 160R. A few noticeable differences is that the eye covers on this did have screws. It came with a high level feed neck, not a low rise feed neck, a high rise feed neck, I should say, not level. And then also it had an ATP pipe, which was kind of a pain in the butt for people. Some people liked it, depending upon where you hold your front grip. Other people didn't, but we can all agree that a gas through grip is obviously better. This did feature the gamma core of the original Gtek and was very popular, which then progressed into the CS2, their high-end platform. And then in about 2019 or so, they re-released it with the Gtek 170R. As you can tell, the 170R and the 180R are very similar in appearance. There were some drastic changes with the 170R. It did come with a low-rise feed neck. It comes with a POPs ASA. Another thing I'd like to point out is that the POPs ASA on this was actually an upgrade, whereas with the 170R and future models, it came with a POPs ASA. And then there was a gas-through grip, better electronics, two-piece barrel was the same, and the bolt system was the same. The 170R was definitely a very popular, high-selling marker for good reason, because it came with a lot of high-end features. This marker retailed at, I believe, $895.95, so right around that $900 price range when it first came out in about 2019 or so. It did have toolless eye covers and toolless bolt or toolless battery removal, so that was a big upgrade from the 160R model. Next, we come up to the Gtek 180R from this year. As you can tell, there's not major aesthetic differences between the two, but there are three key features that I'd like to point out on the Gtek 180R before we really dive into it. So first thing would be the ergonomics behind it. So one thing that drove me crazy about the 170R was that it was narrow this way with the trigger frame, but it was long this way, and for me, I personally didn't like that, and the majority of the people I talked to after holding the 180, they say that they like the 180 feel better than the 170 feel. So this distance between this is smaller, and I would say how wide this is about the same. Another thing is that this required 2 screws on each side, whereas this one only requires 1 screw. But this really isn't going to access much, guys. The majority of everything that you guys are going to be using on a day-to-day basis is in the front, and nothing there has changed. So it comes with the low-rise feed neck. The second major feature would be that the marker comes with the OPR core. It's a slightly revised core from the CS2 or for the CS3, such as the 170R gamma core was slightly different than the CS2 core, but for the most part you could tell there was a shot difference, but not by much. And then lastly, guys, they did a major upgrade to the barrel system. The 180R S63 power insert feature is really nice because you can just pop in your inserts With the 170R, I saw a lot of guys coming in to our store and at events and stuff purchasing a different barrel system for it, because with the 170R, it was just 8.9 back, and you really couldn't do anything with it. Whereas like with the 180R, you can spend a little bit of money on inserts and you've got a full barrel kit without having to do anything else. So there's the background and the progression from the 160R to the 170R and now the 180R. So now we're going to dive really into the 180R. And first thing I like to talk about is the packaging. With the 180R, it is going to come with better packaging as compared to the 170R. I guess that is another key feature when you're talking about the differences between the 170 and the 180. So it is going to come with your box and sleeves similar to the LV2 and the CS3. I'm going to toss those to the side. Now it does come with this really nice heather case, and it is aluminum. I haven't seen any that have dented so far, which is a really nice feature. And then it does have a carry handle, which is very nice. And then opening up the 180R case, you're going to obviously have your spot for the marker and your set of Allen keys. What's really cool about this case, if you guys have already seen me talk about the CS3 and the LV2, sorry, but I'm going to say it again. It does have this band, and it has a divider now. So the 170 case and the 160R case did not have this. And this divider can be used to put your barrel cover, or any extra parts or whatever the case may be, as well as your manual here, and then your lube barrel cover and parts kit is going to go right here. And then there's plenty of slots now, guys, for your inserts. So you can put your barrel back here and then put actually 4 extra inserts, because there's one underneath there. You can actually put 4 extra inserts plus your barrel tip. So you can definitely fit a full barrel kit. And that is a really nice part about the 180R is that barrel upgrade. So packaging wise is a major upgrade in my personal opinion, and one of the reasons why the pricing is $1,100 instead of the $900 price point from the 170R. Keep in mind, inflation is also going to change things, so I think that's another reason for it. So tapping into the actual marker, the barrel system, guys. I already touched on this, but one more time here. It does come with the inserts. It is, from a design perspective, the exact same as the 170R barrel, but the only difference is that you're going to have these inserts. It does come with a 689 insert, and from a weight perspective, I'm going to weigh it real quick here alongside the 170R barrel just to see if there's any difference here. So it's 4.8, and then we've got the 170R barrel. Okay, so the 170R barrel is 4.7 ounces, so it's really close between the two. But overall, for an extra 75 bucks, 50 bucks, you can get another 2 inserts with this barrel system and have a full insert kit between 689, 685, 681 from Planet Eclipse. So all those inserts are going to cost you $24.95 if you purchase them from Planet. The other nice part is you can get these inserts from either dye, going to be more expensive, or you can get them from carbon, and carbons are $19.95. So there are some options there when it comes to this barrel system. All right, next up, guys, let's talk about the ergonomics of the 180R. So I already kind of touched on the point that this back portion feels a lot better than the 170R, guys. And it's just thinner this way, and that's one thing that really drove me crazy about the 170R was how thick this portion was. Width-wise, it's about the same. Front portion's the exact same as the 170R. Overall, ergonomically, I really like the feel of the 180R. I wish that this was a little bit longer. Is it a game changer for me using the marker? No. Would I still use it? Yes. And then lengthwise, it's good. We're going to do our standard measurement here when it comes to the for the player review, and that is from the back of the foregrip to the back of the trigger frame. And that measurement here, guys, is 5 inches and 5/8. So it's pretty elongated, but in my opinion, it's just the perfect feel. So ergonomically, I'd give this marker a solid like 8 out of 10. I think that I still like the feel of the CS3 more. I shoot the CS3, otherwise I'd probably shoot one of these. And that's just because of this foregrip. Because of the fact that you've got to fit a 9-volt in there, it has to be a little bit thicker, whereas the CS3 takes 2 AA's. I wish it was a little bit longer, but ergonomically it's very good. Next up, guys, we're going to talk about eyes. So the eyes on the 180R is going to be your same system. There's a latch mechanism here. You're going to pop that open. It does have the reflective system on the CS platform markers, so there is no cable that you have to worry about. I've actually seen a few Go4s in CS1s with the cables where they actually move slightly out of place and can cause like an eye fault where you're shooting 8 balls a second instead of 10 balls a second. I've seen that a few times. It's not very common out of the hundreds or thousands I've seen on the Go4 and the CS1. I do like the reflective system better. It's a little bit easier to clean. Definitely from an eye perspective, I really like the Gtek 180R. ASA wise, it's going to be a Pops ASA. Overall, I like this Pops ASA. It seems a little bit more robust than the 170R, just by feel. I don't know if there's actually been any engineering changes to it, but I haven't seen any leaks or anything coming from the 180R ASA. The bolt system, this is the OPR core as compared to the Gamma core. There has been some volume changes with this, so it is supposed to be a little bit more efficient. It does have what's called the FT bolt. I believe that stands for feather touch. It's going to have an inset soft tip insert already. So with the 170R, it came with a hard tip bolt stock and you had to upgrade to the ST3 bolt. With the 180R, you don't have to do that. So yeah, bolt system is great. I would definitely say there is a smoothness and quietness difference between the 180R and the 170R. Check out our comparison video that we did shooting the two side by side. There's definitely a difference though, audible difference. Next up guys, we're going to weigh it. So I always like to weigh these markers with the barrel in and the battery in. Okay, so the scale is tiered with battery, with barrel. You're at 1 pound, 14.7 ounces, guys. That is light. It is not as light as the Shocker amp, but that is significantly light. And then last, we're going to talk about upgradability before I get deep in depth with the 180R. So upgradability, guys, there's not a ton that you can do to this marker. It is auto cocker thread, so if you want to put a different barrel system on, you can. There are quite a few triggers coming out for it now, guys. Exalt has a trigger for it. Infamous obviously has a couple different style deuce triggers for it. From a bolt perspective, there's really nothing that you can do to it. So upgradability, I would say, is like a 5 or 6 out of 10, just because right now the only thing that you can do is, you know, upgrade the trigger. So with all that, guys, I am going to now take this marker apart, kind of show you guys the ins and outs of it real quick, show you how easy it is to maintenance this marker, and then once we do that, then we're going to do our shooting portion. And we'll see you guys here in a second. Taking apart the 180R is very simple. There's really only a couple elements to it. It is one of the easier to maintenance markers out there when it comes to how easy it is to take apart. So first thing I'm gonna do, guys, is take apart the bolt. When it comes to maintaining the bolt, there's not a lot to it. I always suggest unscrewing the can from the red portion, so gold from red. You're gonna pop out your bolt there. And the majority of the maintenance that you're going to have to do with the 180R is going to be the 13s on here, making sure all that's clean and lubed well. The 17 on the inside of the can there is important to pay attention to. That, you know, obviously is going to get a lot of dirt and fuzz and everything else like that. And then you've got the bolt itself, which has a couple O-rings. So really, taking it apart and everything else like that from a bolt perspective is extremely simple. And there's really not a lot to it. You can go further in depth and take the entire thing apart. I would encourage maybe once a year doing that, but then other than that, from a bolt perspective, you really don't have to do anything else to it. You know, on a week-to-week basis, I would say what I just did there and just taking apart that stuff and lubing it is going to be plenty. So then moving over to the marker, you've already maintained your bolt system. If you want to go deep in depth and clean it, what you're going to have to do is take off the foregrip here. As I just did, there is a screw right here and a screw here when you take the bolt apart. So those are the two that are going to hold the frame on. The other thing to mention is that it does have the option to do a mech frame, and this would be the same thing that you'd have to do to install your mech frame. So these two screws here, you're going to take those out to clean your frame if you get shot really, you know, if you really get torn up or whatever the case may be. Planet Eclipse does put a little bit of blue Loctite on these, so the first few times in and out they can be kind of a pain to deal with. So there's your first one there. I'm working on the back screw here. Alright, so there you guys have it. That is how simple it is to take this marker apart. When it comes to the body, there's nothing on the actual body, which is really nice. All of your electronics and everything is part of the trigger frame. So once again, swapping back and forth between mech is going to be very, very simple. The other thing to mention is that Planet does a really good job of hiding the boards. So from a maintenance perspective, just taking that apart, cleaning this portion is going to be very simple. The only thing that I've seen that could potentially be an issue is this gasket right here. Does come out relatively easy, and that is the gasket that connects the solenoid to the body of the gun. So as you can see there, that is your solenoid housing, and you're going to want to make sure that gasket is in place when you're putting the marker back together. Otherwise you'll get a really bad leak from the body, and you won't understand why, and you'll think you did something wrong, which I guess you did, but very, very minimal and very easy to fix, probably dropped on the ground. So that's pretty much it when it comes to that. It's very, very streamlined, and there is really not a lot that you can do wrong. And it's very uncomplicated when it comes to taking the frame off from the body. The only thing left at this point, guys, if you want to fully service the 180R, is going to be to take the HPR apart. And when it comes to the HPR, there are 2 screws at the bottom here, and we are just going to loosen those. As you can tell, there is a 3rd screw. Please don't use that one to try and take it apart. That is your velocity adjustment screw that you use to adjust velocity. These 2 screws here are just going to back out of place. Very, very simple once again. You don't have to do anything to access it, which is really nice. Unlike the Dye DSR Plus, you actually have to take the grips fully apart in order to access the screws for the regulator, and I'm not crazy about that. It's just an extra step, whereas with the 180R and the shotgun amp, you don't have that problem. So both of those are out. This is your ASA body, as well as your velocity adjustment screw and stuff like that is going to be in this portion here. For the most part, I haven't seen a lot of maintenance issues when it comes to this, so I usually set that to the side, and then inside here is your regulator piston. And let's see if I can get it out here with my fingers. I forgot to grab needle nose. But basically, when it comes to maintaining this, you're going to just go in there, pull that piston out with some needle nose pliers, and very lightly put some grease on that. There's 1 O-ring on the piston, and then you're just going to pop that back in place. Very, very simple, guys, when it comes to HPR assembly. It's very, very streamlined. So definitely a big fan of how easy this marker is to fully strip and put back together. So yeah. Okay, guys, last thing that we're going to talk about before we get into the shooting portion is the programming of the Gtek 180R. So the programming is a little bit different than the 170R. With the 170R, you would pull the trigger and turn the marker on. This one, same OLED screen, but there are going to be some differences in how you get into programming. So we're going to turn the marker on here. Okay, guys, so there you have it. That is your home screen. And then if you want to get into programming, what you're going to do is you're going to turn the marker off, and it's going to give you the option to turn off. But similar to their high-end markers, what you're actually going to do is you're going to cycle through with your trigger. Now with the CS3 and the LV2, there are 3 buttons on the back here, whereas with this there's only 1, so you're going to use the trigger. And as you can tell there are different modes here. You've got on, rate of fire, off, rate of fire. The kick in, which is how fast you gotta be pulling the trigger to kick in a ramp. Restart, which is how many seconds you can be off the trigger before it restarts the ramp, basically. Dwell, mechanical debounce, game time, auto off. Let's see here. Double click is on. I would assume that means to turn the marker on and off. And then display is which mode you're in. Display would be when you're in the home screen, which option you got there. That's very similar to the 170R board. Factory on, turn off, and then exit. So it is kind of like a hybrid between the 170R and the CS3 LV2 as far as how it's programmed. I like the programming mode on this better than the 170R. I don't like it as much as the CS3 and the LV2, just because these 3 buttons on the back does make a big difference to me. But I think it is a step in the right direction, and I think overall from a programming perspective, it's very simple to change one of these. So we'll change, just to show you guys here real quick, it's in preset NXL. All you're going to do is click the button here, change it, cycle through with your trigger, and then click the button again, and as you can tell there, these little arrows on the top and bottom disappeared and then reappeared. And then we're going to hit exit, and we're back in NXL. So very simple to change the modes. There's not like, it's not a very intricate board when it comes to all the different features. It's going to basically get the job done as far as like the things that you need to adjust, but any type of like high-end fine tuning, you're not going to have those options with this board. So overall, it's a good board. I like the fact that it has a LED here, so when you're in bright sun and you can't see this, you can tell if the marker's on and everything else like that. All right, guys, so we have the Ember style Planet Eclipse Gtek 180R here. We've got a bunch of different types of GI paint potted up. We got some Dynasty and some 3-star, 2-star paint, and we are going to do from the get. So right now we are using a Planet Eclipse or a Ninja SL277. As you guys can see there, we're at about 4,200 PSI. Sorry for the cracked gauge there, but we're right at about 4,200 PSI after the tank has cooled down and everything else like that. And we're ready to do this thing. So our shot count right now is directly at 1,000. Hopefully you guys can see that. If not, I hope you guys trust me enough not to lie to you. And we got Aspire 5. So we're right at 1,000. Balls to start on the shot counter. First shot, 326, 315, 286. It's a little hot, so we're gonna turn it down just a little bit. All right, so right in that about 280 to 290 range. And we're making it interesting. We're gonna shoot uncapped here. Looks like that first hopper of paint was not very smooth there. We're now shooting Dynasty ball here. Alright, so like I said, this pan is a little oily, so don't worry about the accuracy. Save that for another day. So we're at 2,600. I'm going to chrono it. So that's 1,600 shots total. 245, 260. Yeah, so we're going to call it there, guys. That was also uncapped ramp, so you know, we might have been able to get a little bit more, but to make this a little bit more fun and exciting, we decided to go uncapped ramp. But 1,600 shots off of 77, guys. We do have a hopper here, so we are going to, well, I actually filled up from there. So 3, 6, 9, 11 pods plus a full hopper of Spire 5, so 220 balls from the Planet Eclipse Gtek 180R. All right, guys, so we're out front. We've got the GI 5-star here that's been sitting in the freezer. It's a little oily because it's actually older paint. Personal paint that I'm using today. We're here to do a little drop test action. So this is from about waist height. 1, 2, 3. 5 out of 5. All right, so obviously this stuff is very brittle. It's been sitting in my freezer for the last about 30 minutes while we were doing some other videos out here. And we are going to shoot this paint. It is a little oily, so it might not fly super straight, but the idea is whether or not this paint is going to chop at all. So we've got the Spire 5, we've got our chrono here, and we are going to put the mask on for safety purposes. So 280, 270. I'll turn this up just a little bit. 286, 281. All right, think it's gonna chop it all? Nope. Keep in mind we're shooting on cap too here, so. All right, here we go. Wow, that's really testing it. That last, like, those last few balls, the fact that it didn't break at all is super phenomenal. Well, there you guys have it. The Planet Eclipse Gtek 180R, without a question, is going to shoot Brittle paint just great. Pick yours up at punisherspb.com. So there you have it. That is the efficiency portion, as well as the Brittle paint test and some sound comparison between a few different markers. Overall, I really like the Gtek 180R. I think it is a solid marker. It is more efficient than the previous model, the 170R. It does have some other key features to it, and I think it actually is a little bit smoother and sounds a little bit quieter than the CS3, which kind of blows my mind when you actually put them side by side. But from an ergonomic standpoint, I still prefer the CS3. So pros and cons when it comes to the 180R, guys. I think pros would obviously be the new bolt system, the OPR core. Obviously, that's a game changer compared to the Gtek 170R. Another thing to mention is the packaging is just a lot better than previous generations. It's been one of my pet peeves with Planet Eclipse for quite some time. They've resolved that issue, and kudos to them. Cons with the marker, I would say my major con with the marker, probably price point at that $1,099.95. It is on the high end when it comes to when you're comparing it to a base color DSR Plus. You're still $100 more, and you're also much more expensive than a Shocker amp. So keeping all those things in mind, you are definitely paying on the high end of the scale when it comes to mid-level pricing for the Gtek 180R. Do I think it's worth it from a value perspective? I would make the argument it is, because, you know, from a barrel perspective, you can upgrade your barrel and have a full barrel system for 50 bucks. So for $11.50, you're all in. Really, there's nothing else to upgrade on it. It's efficient, it handles brittle paint, it's reliable. I would say with the DSR Plus, to put it in the same efficiency range and reliability range, you kind of have to upgrade to the IM Pro kit, which is, you can do that one of two ways. You can either purchase the DSR Plus Icon, which is going to be $1,400, or you can buy the DSR Plus at $1,000 and then get the upgrade, the IM Pro kit upgrade for 90 bucks. So then you're at $1,100. So then at that point, it's a wash. It's a little bit more expensive to buy diebacks with the DSR Plus, which I would say is probably the closest contender with the Gtek 180R. So with that, guys, I really hope that you guys enjoyed the For the Player review on the Gtek 180R. If you guys like this, make sure that you guys give me some feedback in the comments. If you watched all the way through, you know, if you guys are interested in Gtek 180R, we have all colors in stock here at Punisher's Paintball. So head on over to the website to pick one of these bad boys up, and we'll see you guys for the next review.